Hey everybody, hello. Jessica Coulter here, CEO and founder of Ace Cookie Tutoring. Today we are finishing our myth video series about the Great Locker Cleanout. Today let's talk about those used school supplies. So mom and dad, I want to hear, what do you do? What do you ask your teen to do with those partially used notebooks, with those pens? What do you do with them? Do you keep them? Do you recycle them? Do you throw them out? Let me know down below in the comments, because that's what we're talking about today, why this is a myth that they can't be recycled. Before I get going, I just want you to know I have a Facebook business page, Ace Cookie Tutoring. If you're not already a follower, make sure you hit that follow button if you're watching this on Facebook. Okay? And if you're not, if you're on YouTube, go on over to Facebook. So here we go. Now that you've told me whether you're recycling, whether you're reusing, this is why it is a myth. Okay, I can tell you some school supplies much easier to reuse, to continue to use for another year than others, but also know it comes down to personal preferences. It also comes down to cost. Okay, so think about this. Your teen has a notebook, a spiral notebook. So we've got those ones that are one subject. We got those notebooks that I think are 5. I don't remember if there's 3 and 10, but I know there's 1 and 5. So your teen, hopefully he's taking lots of notes. Okay, that means it might be pretty full. Or you might have a teen who's a doodler. You might have a teen that just always uses a notebook as paper instead of loose leaf paper. Okay, those are all very different situations. If your child uses notebooks all the time and there's not a whole lot of room left, well, you have to decide, is it worth the cost of getting rid of it, wasting that paper, or is it worth it, like we've talked about earlier this week, for your child to hold on to that notebook knowing those last 5-10 pages are blank, not going to be used for anything else. So that's kind of my rule of thumb, is if there's more written in it than not, then I do not use that, do not recommend using that for the following school year as a notebook. Now, what you can do, what I prefer to do, what I encourage my students to do that I work with as a tutor, is there's no reason those blank pages can't be ripped out of that notebook and then used as paper. Okay, obviously, certain notebooks don't have the perforated edges, and so all those little bits get messy and gross. So that, again, up to you how you want to handle that. If there's just a few pages, like I said, 5-10 pages, doesn't take that long to go one by one, maybe even 2 or 3 at a time, following the perforations, or even cutting them out if there's no perforations, or if that's just the way you want to go. So that is idea number 1. Do also know certain supplies like pens, those shouldn't be gotten rid of. I mean, yeah, if a pen is dead, get rid of the pen. But unless you're buying really expensive pens for your college daughter, your high school son, your middle schooler, do know pens, they can get used year after year after year. Okay, so those are just a matter of having them in a pencil bag that your daughter keeps in her backpack at all times. And, we'll get to the end of the year, we'll get rid of the things that aren't going to be stored over the summer. And, the pencil bag just stays a pencil bag. Okay. I will also tell you, if it comes down to just what's cool, what, is in, that again comes down to you, to your daughter, to your son, the money situation, the family preferences, all of that stuff. So for me, if we've got three-ring binders that are in good shape, they're not bent, not broken, they're still usable, they're actually being used like we talked about earlier this week, do know, again, those should be recycled. Okay, those can be used for several years. Obviously, when you go buy them, there's the really cute ones, there's the really boring ones. So for me, I would, if it was my son or daughter and, I had a cute cat on it, and the next year, like, oh, that's like babyish, or, oh, I don't like cats anymore. My kid would be like, it's still usable. If you don't like cats anymore, use it for a class that you don't love. Okay. I mean, that would be my thought process. Or it could be a binder that stays in the locker that doesn't get used all the time. It just depends on what the requirements are for certain classes, but certain supplies. Okay. So different ideas there for you, whether you're ripping the empty pages out of a notebook, whether you're reusing that binder. Okay, there are other school supplies we haven't talked about yet, so be sure to stick around for that. Before we go into the last part of the video though, if you're just now joining us, we're talking about used school supplies. So I want to hear from you if you haven't told me if you're throwing them out or recycling them. I also want to make sure and invite you to become a follower of my Facebook business page and to subscribe to my YouTube channel so I can notify you and you can stay in the loop about upcoming videos. So what else should we talk about when it comes to supplies? Well, one of my big things, one of the absolute most important school supplies in my world, and again, this comes down to your child's learning preferences. This is something we can talk about on my Facebook page or in a strategy call, whatever you like. But folders. There's paper folders, there's plastic folders, and then there's those plastic folders with the brackets. Okay, I would always encourage every parent listening, if you are, at all thinking about school supplies next year, maybe you catch this on my YouTube channel or, as you're scrolling someday, buy the plastic folders. Yes, they're a little bit more, but they last so much longer. Okay, so if you have paper folders, there's a good chance those are getting thrown out. Unless your child never ever used it, it's most likely going to get thrown out if it was used even semi-regularly. Okay, you can't get rid of the words on it. If your daughter's a drawer, or if we have someone that put all sorts of labels and stickers, again, not really recyclable on the paper. But the cool thing about the plastic is they last forever. And if you write in Sharpie on there, that whole idea of hand sanitizer or rubbing alcohol, it really does work to get it off of there. The dry erase marker thing works as well. To me, it's just kind of wasteful because dry erase markers aren't affordable. I'd much rather do the hand sanitizer, rubbing alcohol. That's a much better, easier thing, I think. Also a little less messy. So definitely do know there are school supplies you can use and that your daughter, your son should keep at the end of the year during the locker cleanout. Okay. Now, when it comes to pens and pencils that are broken, again, to me, those aren't worth keeping unless your son or daughter is constantly wasting them, losing them. Might be worth keeping those around just as backups, just as emergencies. Okay. So I hope this helps. Do know, like I said, it really comes down to personal preferences. Just know we don't want your sons and daughters throwing things away that are in pretty perfect condition. We also want to decide, hey, is this notebook going back to school or is it going somewhere to be filed so we can refer back to the notes, back to the assignments, okay? So I don't think I mentioned what to do if the notebook doesn't, or if it has more than like 10 pages left to empties. For me, on those like 5 subject notebooks, if your son or daughter never used the last section, that's a perfect reason for the notebook to go back to school next year. Okay, and if that notebook just has doodles in it, it's pretty easy to rip out those pages. Again, if it's just a few pages that were doodled on, the rest is pretty much brand new. Because the cool thing is, those spiral notebooks, a lot of them have shiny fronts. Again, you can clean that off pretty easily. You do it a little too aggressively, you might lose some of the color of the notebook, but again, comes off pretty easily, or you can just put a sticker over a sticker or a sticker over words. So have an awesome weekend, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got questions, drop them down below. And remember, I have awesome events coming up, actually one just in a couple weeks. So if you're a follower of my Facebook business page, you will be notified. If you're not, you might miss out. So click the link in the description. It takes you straight to my Facebook business page, Ace Cookie Tutoring, and hit the follow button, turn on your notifications, and you will always know what's happening, what's new, what's awesome with Ace Cookie Tutoring. Thanks so much, guys. Talk to you soon.